Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Shining Force 3 Scenario 1 Insane Mode Efficiency playthrough. So let's get started with Battle 2. You can see at the beginning of the map there's some guys kind of wandering off to the end of the map, so just to give some basic context of the story, so we can get caught up, is that the story of Shining Force 3 started with a peace conference between the Empire and the Republic, and this sect of strange masked monks decided to bring a lookalike of the Republic's king, and they staged this crazy kidnapping of the Emperor. So Symbios and his army are giving chase to try to figure out what exactly is going on. So on the first turn, you can see that I just baited over this bat. These bats don't engage you until you deliberately leave someone in their range. So we want to bait them in as quickly as possible because I really don't want them swarming me all at once. There's no way I can handle them all at the same time like that. Now, one thing about these bats is that they do have a poison attack. They have about a 20% chance of activating it. So that's why I'm using Dantares to take the hit instead of Mascarin. If Mascarin gets hit by the poison attack, I mean, she can survive the hit. It'll deal 8 damage to her 9 HP, but then the poison will just kill her, because poison can actually kill you in this game. And that means that if I waste my turn with her healing up, she'll take 1 damage from the poison, and then she'll be open to getting killed by a bat right after. So that just makes things very tedious. But even if I do get poisoned on Dantares here, I actually do have an antidote on both Symbios and Grace to heal the poison in case I really need to. So here you can see Mascarin just kind of showing off just why she's so good. Even at level 1, she's already strong enough to just one-shot these bats from full HP, which is something nobody else can do. Not even the archers, who have effective damage on them. So you can see in the middle of this map that there are 2 archers that we have to go save. That's one of the side objectives of this game, and this map is a pretty good first introduction to the game not being particularly well playtested on Insane Mode, at least when we're talking about NPCs, or saving NPCs. People who enjoyed the added challenge of Insane during while they're playing 1-1 will quickly run into the most annoying aspect of Insane Mode, which is trying to save these recruitable NPCs. So even though you can see that Garrosh seems to be taking punishment pretty well from only taking 2 damage per hit to his 10 HP, you can see that Hayward instead took 7 damage to his 11 HP from the bat that charged him. Now, it's worth noting that the Masked Monk AI here actually does generally prioritize attacking Garrosh, but in many cases they will go for the kill on Hayward if it can. And you also want that first bat out of the way so he doesn't just immediately kill Hayward before you can even talk to him. Now, when you're watching this video, that might seem very simple, since we are able to walk up to Hayward and just talk to him on turn 3, but it doesn't do justice to just how annoying this map can get if you're playing it on Insane for the first time. On normal mode, Hayward has enough HP and defense to survive at least another turn, but here you need to make sure that not only is the bat dead, but you want to immediately talk to Hayward afterward, after the bat is dead, because otherwise Hayward is just going to walk around shooting the monks with like 4 HP left over and just going to get instantly murked. So first part of the strategy is just taking care of the bat. In this recording you can see that Garrosh and Hayward actually combined to get a KO on it, and you'd think that that is something that would make this recruitment very simple. But the fact is that the AI in this game is just kind of baffling, and they sometimes just don't do what you want them to do. Most commonly, what people find is that sometimes if you play this map, instead of both attacking the bat, they will instead go attack the monk that Garrosh shot on the first turn. So that means the bat is left over to just do whatever it wants, and of course it usually just goes to kill Hayward. And this is why this particular map is a very frustrating first introduction to trying to save NPCs, because you have to move in a very specific way to kind of encourage them to do that. So Garrosh, as you've seen, has been taking hits like a champ. He only takes 2 damage per hit from these masked monks to his 10 HP, but even he has his limit and he dies here. So I know what some of you might be saying, Sugary Sweet, I thought you wanted to recruit everyone. Well, thankfully Garrosh actually isn't a recruitable character in this game. The game is kind of tricking you into thinking he might be recruitable because he has this pretty portrait and he isn't ugly enough to be evil in a JRPG. But in fact, what happens is if you talk to him, he'll just immediately leave the map and he'll be like, oh, I gotta go tell the governor of this conspiracy to kidnap the emperor and that the king of the republic is innocent. However, even if you save him, it actually doesn't affect the plot of the game at all. What ends up happening in the next chapter is that instead of a bunch of soldiers coming out and saying, get those Republic scum for kidnapping the Emperor, they instead just come out and say, Garrosh told us the Republic King was an imposter, but we don't believe him, so get those Republic scum for kidnapping the Emperor. So Garrosh has one job in Scenario 1 and he doesn't really do it that well. And even if you recruit Garrosh later on in Scenario 2, which is where you actually get him to join, you can't get him to join in Scenario 1, there's actually a replacement character for him in case he dies, And the replacement character for him really isn't much worse than him, if he's worse at all. Furthermore, allowing Garrosh to die here actually allows us to obtain an item if you walk back to town and talk to a certain NPC. There's like a little boy who's just like, oh no, I'm so sad that Garrosh is dead. Here, have this ring that he gave me. And the silver ring that it gives you is actually very useful at this point in the game. The silver ring helps Symbiosis' army in the very difficult early game of Shining Force 3 Scenario 1, whereas in Scenario 2, if you had saved Garrosh here, Garrosh joins pretty late into that game, in like Chapter 5 or something. And by that point, Medion's army should be stacked enough that he really doesn't need another archer. He's more just a bonus, if anything. And the replacement character of his is like an artillery unit who is slightly worse than Garrosh, but I don't think it's really substantially so to the point where you need to go out of your way to save Garrosh. So the universe is basically conspiring to say that Garrosh's existence never mattered. So in summation, I think it's fair to say Garrosh is a huge scrub, and it actually helps the Shining Force more when he's dead than alive. So backing up a bit to talk about the recruitment of Hayward again, because it really is the most difficult part of this map. So what people in the community used to find is that if you stick to the walls of the bridge, that seems to encourage Garrosh and Hayward to go for his kill. So this is technically correct advice from the community, but from my testing, what I found is that the reason this happens isn't particularly because like you're sticking to the wall necessarily, but because of what that means for your movement ranges. So because there have been times when I played this map and I stick to the walls and they just go attack a masked monk instead of bat anyway, which obviously just gets Hayward killed. The main reason you can encourage them to attack the bat instead of a masked monk is you have to move Symbios and Dontares forward in a way such that the bat is actually in Symbios' threat range after he finishes attacking Hayward. At least that's what I found. And I think the reason this happens is because just like the enemy AI tends to like attacking units that they can ensure a combined KO on, the friendly NPCs will see that, oh wait, these friendly units, or the player's units, are in range of this bat to finish him off after I shoot him. So let's just do that instead of shooting the masked monks. And for some reason, I guess by themselves, they don't figure out that just them two by themselves can combine for a KO on it. So you need to have Symbios kind of in range to attack the bat as well. And that seems to encourage them to also attack the bat. Now, there actually is an alternative way to try to solve this map, and it's by rushing forward with Masquerin as well. So you can actually have Masquerin reach the bat on turn 3 before it moves and have her 1-hit KO the bat with the Blaze. And that obviously can make Hayward a little bit safer, because then you could just run up to Hayward with either Symbios or Dantares and recruit him right away. And he can back off and just heal himself with the herb he has. But if you do that, you actually are putting Masquerin in a lot of danger of dying instead, especially because when you're doing that, you're not taking care of the bat that you baited in on the first turn, because Masquerin will be too busy just charging forward in order to cast Blaze on the first bat. Obviously, you can instead just like have Masquerin die, and in that case it's just like whatever, because you can go revive her. But since that's obviously not what we're going for here, because we don't want any character deaths, I instead just went for the strategy that will cause Hayward and Garrosh to combine for a KO. The annoying thing about the bat is that even if you try to ignore it and you go talk to Hayward, because the bat moves faster than Hayward, he's gonna have 4 HP left after the bat attacks him. So you will recruit Hayward and then he'll just immediately die. So I've been kind of trash talking Garrosh a lot here, but let's get to the person we actually recruited. So as you can see, Hayward is an archer, and he's honestly pretty good. For those of you who play a lot of Fire Emblem or old SRPGs like this, you might be fooled into thinking that archers are usually bad, or they can only kill enemies on player phase or whatever. Well, since this game really only has player phase, counters are just pretty rare to happen in this game. You can sometimes set them up, but it's usually not something to rely on. So aside from having 2 range, which obviously has its uses, and they can actually upgrade to 3 range later in the game, Hayward actually has pretty good starting stats. He has 14 attack with his weapon equip, which is actually the same amount of attack that Dontares has. And in this game, enemy flyers are quite abundant, and flyers aren't just, flying birdmen and stuff. There's actually mages and bats and all kinds of things that appear later on that are considered flying units. And because of that, I actually think Hayward is one of the most essential units to keep at a decent level for the early to mid game, because there's going to be a number of very troublesome flyers, and Hayward is going to help us deal with a lot of them. Pretty much the only thing that lets you down about Hayward is the fact that he only has 5 moves, so he kind of has a hard time keeping up with the force sometimes. Although most maps in this game on Insane Mode are not conducive to you just rushing to the boss and killing them. For example, this map is a boss kill map, but we're going to end up killing all the enemy units anyway, so it might as well have been a route map. The last kind of unimpressive stat from Hayward is actually his agility. His agility growth seems to be pretty inconsistent, and I usually find that he either moves last or second to last, but there are ways we can patch it up later, and actually low agility in this game can be used for some shenanigans, as I mentioned before in the past. One last note about him being 2-range is how well he can take advantage of friendship bonuses, and I think it's a good time to start talking a little bit about friendship bonuses. So friendship bonuses in this game are based on the character's class. So for example, Symbios is a soldier, and he gives an attack support. Dantara is the knight, and also another knight we'll get later on. They both give the succumb support, which lowers the enemy's critical hit rate. Masquerade gives a magic support, so she increases the damage of magic spells cast by people. And there are a number of ways to gain support points or friendship points. The most obvious way is by attacking the same enemy. Now the way this works is that you can't have 10 people attack the same enemy and all 10 of them gain support points with each other. You only build friendship points with whoever last attacked the enemy. So when you want to gain support points in that way, the best way is to take 3 units and have them take turns attacking the same enemy. And eventually all 3 of them should be gaining support points with each other. So that's why in the middle of the map, when you saw me fighting off all those masked monks, you could see that I was taking turns attacking the same monk using Dantares, Symbios, and Hayward when I could. And towards the end of this map, I'm also going to have Masquerade just wait a turn before she casts Blaze, just so that I can make sure that Dantares is the one that attacks the boss right after Symbios attacks him, just so I can make sure they gain a little bit more friendship. The other way to gain friendship points is by healing each other. Removing status effects actually does not get you friendship points, so it's only if you heal HP. And this is obviously pretty easy to achieve by using medical herbs. However, most of the time I am going to be letting the dedicated healers do the healing, because they get more experience from healing than any other class can, so it's not really quote-unquote worth it to be gaining friendship points with healing herbs most of the time. Friendship bonuses range from basically level 1 to level 4, or I guess you could say level 0 to level 4. There's one where there's no bonus at all, which is where you start obviously, and then you can have partner right after that, and then it turns into friend, which goes to trusted, and then soulmate. So for the first 4 levels, which is ally, partner, friend, and trusted, gaining 10 points allows you to move between the different levels. And a soulmate bond only has a chance of happening every 15 points after you reach trusted. And for most pairings in this game, the soulmate chance is like really low. It's like 5% or even lower. It's slightly different for every single pairing in the game. But the short of it is that I'm not really going to be attempting to get soulmate for the most part. If there's an exception, I'll make a note of it, but usually it's not really worth going for soulmate because of the random chance of you not getting it. And that's obviously an opportunity cost you could have been using to get another friendship bond. And if I accidentally get a soulmate, I don't think I'm going to go on my way to reset the game because that's just very tedious. It is worth noting, however, that soulmate isn't just like a boost to the effectiveness of the bond, because usually it actually isn't that big of a boost. For example, soulmating with Symbios goes from plus 10 attack to plus 15 attack, and while that is definitely a very nice boost, the real prize of getting to a soulmate friendship level is actually that the support bonus goes from being adjacent to being 2 blocks. And this kind of goes back to why I think Hayward is a very essential character in the early game of this game, because he doesn't need to soulmate with Symbios to be able to get the very juicy attack bonus that he gives out. With units like Dantares, I'm going to need to either just not use the attack bonus a lot of the time, or I'm going to need to throw a javelin, which is way weaker than his lances. So we're getting to the end of this map now, and you can see that I'm sending Grace off to the side of the map to take care of a barrel. This is actually a pretty important side objective, and it's actually kind of an interesting kind of a meshing between the battle sections of this game and the exploration sections of this game. At certain points, things that you do during the battle can actually affect where you get to explore, and there's actually an item behind that barrel that you normally wouldn't be able to get unless you bothered go destroying this barrel during the battle. So there's a chest there that contains an accessory, the Iron Bracer, which increases your attack, and accessories are pretty rare to come by until way late into the game, or at least about halfway into the game, so the attack boost from that Iron Bracer is going to be very valuable right now. This boss isn't too difficult, he just has a bunch of HP, and he has a tornado spell, which is actually not that bad, and it can kind of catch some novice players off guard if you weren't just healing up all the time. But for us, he's not going to be too much trouble, so we just take him out. So that's Battle 2, and it's completed in 13 turns. I'll see you in the next one.